Okay, before we start, I need to put a disclaimer here. The conversation may be triggering for some people because we're going to talk about sexual abuse, the effect it leaves behind, and what healing actually looks like. So, if you need to pause, take a break, or come back to this later, that's completely okay. Or if you just want to swipe from this video, that is fine. Now, and something else I would also want to say before we go any further. This conversation is not just for women, it's for men too. And I say that because every time sexual abuse is being discussed, there are men listening who immediately disconnect from the conversation, right? Not because they have not experienced it, but because they have spent years convincing themselves that they are not allowed to talk about it. A lot of men rather like tell you everything else about themselves rather than admit that they were sexually abused. Not because they are weak, but they are ashamed. And the painful part is that they are ashamed of something that wasn't even their fault in the first place. And that's one of the cruelest things about being sexually abused. The person who was harmed often ends up carrying the shame, while the person who caused the harm walks away from it. And that doesn't make sense, but that's how it often works. Now, when people talk about healing, they usually focus on the event itself, right? When it happened and the moment everything changed. What people don't talk about enough is that what will happen years later, right? The random moment and the moment that makes no sense. You're having a normal day and suddenly something reminds you of it. A smell, a conversation, a movie scene, a joke that somebody makes without even thinking, and just like that, you're somewhere you don't want to go. People who have experienced trauma sometimes think memories are just memories, but survivors know memories can feel like they're happening all over again. And that's why healing can be so frustrating because it's not like recovering from a broken arm. A broken arm can follow a timeline, but trauma doesn't. You can be doing well for months and then something catches you off guard, right? And it looks like you're going backward. Healing isn't as nearly as neat as people try to make it sound. One thing I've noticed is that from listening to survivors is that they often spend years trying to become the person that they were before the abuse. I understand why. They want to want their old life back, right? It goes back to that version that felt safe, lighter, and trusting. But eventually, many people discover that that person isn't coming back, right? Because what happened has changed you, and that's the truth. That is the first step of healing, understanding that that thing might have changed you. And strangely enough, really healing often begins when you stop trying to become who you were and start figuring who you are now, right? This is the most difficult conversation. Nobody likes hearing that, but that's the truth. The goal isn't to erase the past, the goal is to stop letting the past define who you are now. And the truth is, it takes time, sometimes a whole lot of time, right? And another part of this whole thing is the anger that comes with it. The anger that comes with it, right? There's this pent up anger that comes with it. Not everybody cries. Some people get angry. You get very angry, angry at the abuser, angry at people who should have protected them, angry at people who don't believe them, right? Angry at themselves. But sometimes they're so used to carrying that anger that they don't even realize it's there anymore. That's this tricky part, right? The anger will be there and you just move through the world and you won't even know that you're carrying that pent up anger, right? Short temper, trust issues, pushing people away, keeping everyone at distance, not because they are bad people, because um somewhere deep down they are still protecting a wound that nobody else can see. And that's why I've learned from listening to survivors, right? Healing usually doesn't happen during some dramatic breakthrough moment. Most of the times it happens quietly. It happens when you stop blaming yourself. It happens when you finally tell someone the truth. It happens when you stop minimizing what happens and when you realize you've spent years carrying responsibility for something that was never yours to carry. And maybe that's one of the hardest parts. Accepting that what happened was real and it affected you and it wasn't your fault. Because once you have accepted those things, you can finally stop fighting reality and start healing